And we are live. Good Monday morning, folks. August the 11th, 2025. We are well past that half point in the year, aren't we? That happened over a month ago, didn't it? Yep, we are way closer right now to Christmas than last New Year's. Tick tock, tick tock. The clock ticks for us all. The days are long, the years are short. Either you are advancing in your quest for liberty, freedom, independence, or life is pushing you back. Coincidentally, as I work on Laws of Life 2, which may not be the actual title, I'm sure it probably will be. It'll probably just be a different subtitle of it. We can't have both of them be Ditch the System, Design Your Life, even though it fits really well. But I'm actually working on Chapter 6. Actually just finished it this weekend. And that is the law of life. Either you are moving forward or life is pushing you back. Remember that, because there's a lot of things trying to push back against us today. Monday has seemed to fall into a rhythm of being like a current event show. It's not my favorite stuff to do. It always has some political bent to it or what have you. You know, you always end up saying, well, in this instance, this is probably a good idea. And then, well, that means you love Orange Man, or like, well, maybe I didn't know you were a liberal Democrat retard or whatever. Like, look, man, I just called balls and strikes. But somebody emailed me, and I liked the way they framed it. They said, stop seeing Mondays when you're doing these shows as it being news and commentary and politics, and see it as what it really is. And that's you looking at the current situation and using your pattern recognition to advise us about what it means will happen next. And that is true. So I'm going to try to embrace this and maybe make this, maybe not every Monday, but most Mondays being shows like this. It definitely brings out more people. We've only been going at it for 2 minutes now, and there's already more people than there are on some shows that are things that like could benefit everybody. So if that's what you want, that's what you get. What do we have today? Little bit on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is drying up, like supply availability for what's called over-the-counter trades. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, I'll tell you when we get there. Also on Bitcoin, Jack Dorsey is dropping a new Bitcoin mining chip this week. It's been talked about for a long time, but I think it's officially announced now that it will become available on the 14th. It also is open source. That's interesting, isn't it? You know, open source. Why would they do that? I'll tell you about that too and why it matters. And then, you know, we're going to look a little bit at where the Genius Hack has us going. This is nothing directly. This will be good for Bitcoin. Not that many things aren't good for Bitcoin right now. But this will be good for Bitcoin, but it's really not about that. It's about the U.S. debt being refinanced in a way that no one could have foreseen even, I don't know, a year or two ago, except for me, because I said this would happen. And I said this is why they would do it. But, of course, the Genius Act is going to let the banks create their own stable coins, like JP Morgan coin, though they probably won't call it that, right? Or BOA coin, or, you know, my little bank, Frost Bank got in, Frost coin or whatever, right? And it's just dollar coins like Tether and Circle and what have you. But I'm going to drop something on you that most of you don't know about Tether and Circle right now, who are stable coin issuers that will exist outside the Genius Act, by the way. They will stay in the international waters instead of the domestic waters, but the domestic waters can play internationally too, so that's interesting. But and Amy, I got a question about the beard coming up in a second too. We're having some doubts coming from the person who suggested it in the first place, Miss Dorothy, that is. I'll tell you about that a bit. But anyway, Tether and Circle right now are the two primary issues of stablecoins. I'm going to tell you something about them most people don't know. And what is that forecast for what's going to happen when these major banks who can borrow all the money they want, turn around and buy bonds, U.S. bonds with them, with the same money, make the spread, and now issue stablecoins? What is that going to do? Wait till you hear this. I think this is going to blow you away. Next, Trump brings peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So the press covers Iran bitching about it. Tell you more about that when we get there. But this is a bigger deal than you would think if you don't know anything about the history between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which most people, honestly, outside of Armenia and Azerbaijan do not know. At least most people outside the area we would call the Caucasus certainly don't know. But that's a huge deal. And it's, whether you hate Trump or love Trump, I don't care. It's a big win. It's a big win. Of course, so that's why I said the media has to cover Iran's bullshit instead, which Iran's bullshit means nothing. You'll see why when we get to that one. Then we have a new huge deal for AMD and NVIDIA. to sell their products out of the United States to China, which had been kind of frosted over and not allowed because we don't want China to get ahead in the AI race, right? So Dorsey's doing some stuff with ASIC chips, right, for mining Bitcoin. GPUs used to be the thing, but it's not for mining anymore. But GPUs are what run all AI. And NVIDIA and AMD want to sell their shit to China because China wants to buy it. China's got lots of money. Have you ever heard of a reverse tariff? AI told me today that that's not a real word. I just invented it. It is a real word. They call it an export tax. Bullshit. It's not an export tax. It's a reverse tariff. And when I tell you what they're going to do and why it's a big win for them, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And you tell me it's not a reverse tariff. Right? It might not even make sense to say reverse tariff, but when I explain to you what this is, it'll make sense. Then there's a new movie coming out tonight about mRNA vaccines. You might want to watch it. The left media, the mainstream media as a whole, wants you to not watch it. That probably means you should. I'll say very little about it because I don't want to get another strike or another dick slap on YouTube and be thrown in YouTube jail for another 2 weeks or something like that. But I'll explain it enough that you'll know whether you want to watch it or not. Then Trump is going to meet Putin in Alaska. We'll talk about the most likely outcomes of that and why it's Alaska. RT actually has a great article on this today. But I'm going to take it another level, which is what I do. Then what happens if Trump federalizes D.C.? I'm sure there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth by the Rhino Republicans and the Democrats both. But this, once again, will show who they really are. It will show exactly who they are. And then, little local story for me. Fort Worth just killed all remnants of DEI in the Fort Worth city government, which I can tell you as somebody that lives, like, Fort Worth literally 15 minutes that way from me. I don't live in Fort Worth. My address is, but I'm not in the city limits. It's like the being in the middle of nowhere here. But if there is no traffic and you haul ass, you can be in Fort Worth in 15 minutes. So I know a little bit about what goes on in Fort Worth. This is going to be an interesting little quick one to wrap things up today. And I'm going to be going through this kind of rapid fire quick today, just to let you know that. Now, before we get into it, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors of the day. And sponsor of the day, number one today, is Anton's Land of Biltong at biltongusa.com, where you can get some of the best biltong available in the United States. I say that with no hesitation. I am a biltong connoisseur. You can trust me. If there was such, Chef Ken Daniels is a sommelier for wine and spirits and some other things too. There's actually more things you can be a somm for than just wine and spirits. I don't think there's such thing as a somm for biltong. If there was, I would probably be the president of the Biltong Sommelier Association. I'm serious. I have been eating biltong for about 30 years. I first learned about it in a book a long, long time ago written by Peter Hathaway Capstick. I've made it. I've eaten others. Anton makes some of the best in the world, period. And that's because he's from South Africa. The Drewurst sausages, the biltong sticks, STIX, and the Kalbanazi sausage are also awesome. He has a lot of other really great imported foods from around the world. Check it out today at biltongusa.com. Next up today, I'm going to say I believe the longest running sponsor that we still have at the Survival Podcast, I think, is Knife Kits. If it's not Knife Kits, it'd be between them and Jeff the Berkey Guy Gleason, but he left for a while and came back, so that doesn't count. Knife Kits has been with us since February of 2009. It is now August of 2025. I would have never took a bet that I could keep a sponsor that long of a podcast. I've kept a few, almost that long, but Knife Kits has been around forever. Check them out. You'll see why they love you and you love them. It is a place that does what it says and says what it does, where you can build knives from kits, even if you've never done it before. It's not that hard. And what a great way to build something like a lasting heirloom between you and maybe your kid or your grandkid or something like that. Check them out today, knifekits.com. And they do a discount for MSB members. It's not a very large discount, but that's because their margins are so thin. Somebody says Safe Castle. Yeah, Safe Castle was the first. But have you heard about them on the show recently? No, they've been gone for about 5 years as a sponsor. No bad blood, just, things wear out. And that one did. And to keep a sponsor for what would that's 10 years. 10 years to keep a sponsor to a podcast. That's insane in and of itself. All right. So, and yeah, let's get into this now. I have a few things I want to cover that are kind of more announcement-y at the very beginning. Number one is TSP25 Workshop tickets go on sale this year, September the 13th. That's about 2 weeks earlier than normal, and there's multiple reasons for it. But we just need to this year. And the workshop itself falls about a week earlier than typical because the way that weeks landed in November. So usually it's the week of November the 11th, which is Veterans Day. This is the week prior that the workshop dates will actually be. We are also moving the venue, if you haven't heard yet. We're at a YMCA camp about 15 minutes south of me. So between here and Fort Worth, like I was saying earlier. You will feel like you are in the middle of nowhere. It is really cool when you're on your way in. It's like you take this big Nautilus form like of the road that kind of spirals inside to it. It goes past the outer edge of the Naval Air Station, and you'll see a building on the way into it. It looks like a prison. It's actually a hospital. It looks like a prison, though, because it used to be a woman's jail. And then I guess it got abducted into Carswell, and they made it into a hospital. It's kind of cool. But you all of a sudden, like all the neighborhoods, all the city stuff, it all disappears. You have over 300 acres, beautiful lake, river access, great camping area, huge dining hall designed for 500 people. We're going to have about 100. Plenty of room for everybody. I will be giving you more information and answering some questions this week that people have been asking probably on tomorrow's show. But I just want to remind you it's coming. If you want to come, even though we're going to sell more tickets than ever, they're still going to sell out in like 15 minutes or less. I'm telling you right now, the interest is blowing me away once again. I'm hearing from people already. Can I buy early? No, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that type of thing. You need to be on the Telegram list or the Telegram channel, one or the other, the group or the channel. And you need to be there by the morning of this, and you need to get up and you need to listen and be ready to go. And as soon as the link drops, you need to click it or you ain't going to get in. I don't say that just to sell it. I say that because it really does bother me that I have to tell so many people every year, I'm sorry you didn't get in. I'm one of the reasons we're moving this is because it will be easier on Dorothy and me in our home life to not have that many people for almost a week at our house. That's one reason. The other reason, though, is because I do hate every year how many people don't get in and how people are mad at me and how I have to tell people who I'm personally friends with sometimes who didn't get in. I'm sorry you didn't get in. But me, right? It's me. Yeah, but there's still a limit on how many people we can handle. We could probably do more than we're going to do, but it's our first time at a new venue, so we're going to ease into it. We're going to do 85 tickets. We usually sell 50. Last year, 50 sold out in under 2 minutes. You do the math. If you want to be here, I really recommend that you get yourself here. The other thing I want to let you know, same week, but Monday of that week instead of Saturday. It'll be the Monday I get back from vacation. We're going on an Alaska cruise. We're leaving the last week of August, and we're coming back that weekend before the 8th of September, which is a Monday. The second class of the AI course will be open. It will be $300. We will send an email to all the people on the pre-registered list. If you're not on the pre-registered list, I suggest you go by the show notes and find it. We're not really pushing that anymore. That sold out in under 2 minutes. That broke the site. People hammered it so hard. I think Tom has that worked out. But the ChatGPT Solopreneurs course, the people that took class 1 are blown away, and the work they have done has blown me away. And we are going to survey them, but I don't think there's a single one of them that will tell you that they didn't get their money for it. Humble Mechanic was part of it. He's a huge success already. His statement right now in the live chat, $300, worth it, way worth it. Most people that were in that course by the first week was $100 for class 1 because we didn't know. Tom and I were like, we might screw it up. We didn't, right? But we were like, we might. We've never done this before, especially a course in this format before. But in the first week, people were like, I got my money on it. It's an 8-week course, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We drop the information each day. Each day we work with each other incrementally on the course. That way people don't run ahead and get out of their skis or whatever. We also have now a private forum. Tom and I are kind of dinking around with exactly how that's going to work for others because more people is better network effect. But we are trying to build an army of highly trained, highly motivated solopreneurs that are also AI diverse, and not really even solopreneurs, small business people. The network itself is incredibly valuable. And one thing you need to know about this course, anything new, anything we change, anything we add in future courses, anybody who took any of the classes prior to that will have access to the new material. We will never cut anybody out of the new material, but we're going to give student support to the current class. But class 001 was a huge success. We are going to open signups on 9 o'clock, September the 8th, for the AI course. We'll send an email to everybody pre-registered. That's how it's going to happen. If you're not pre-registered, you won't get the email and you don't get to sign up. That's how it is. And there is another little thing Tom and I need to talk about that I just remembered. So Tom, I know you're out there. Send me an email and just put "don't forget" in the subject line. So when I'm done with this shit, I don't forget. But I bet you know what we need to talk about. There is that small group of people who kind of got double hosed last time. We need to think about what to do for them. All right, now let's move on. My first official story for today's show is what's going on with Bitcoin in a way that most people never think about. Only the truly initiated, right, tend to think about Bitcoin in this matter. And you know what? This article is not very long, and it has one of the kind of AI generated sound read to you type things. I'm just going to let it read the story to you, and then I'll come back and talk about it.
Bitcoin supply shock to uncork BTC price as OTC desks run dry. Key points. Bitcoin corporate treasuries such as strategies are predicted to drain OTC desks and then exchanges. The resulting supply imbalance will uncork BTC price action. In the meantime, profit-taking is still a major priority for existing hodlers. Bitcoin, BTC, demand from over-the-counter, OTC, desks and exchanges will uncork BTC price growth, says a new forecast. In new X content Wednesday, popular swing trader Bedlam Capital Prey bet on a fresh Bitcoin supply shock. OTC desk BTC balances point to price uncork. Bitcoin is set to be uncorked as declining reserves on exchanges and OTC desks produce a supply imbalance. Bedlam Capital Prey, who champions Bitcoin treasury firm strategy, MSTR, as the most asymmetric trade in the market, sees demand only increasing from here. Mr. buys most of its BTC from OTC trade desks. Mr. bought 182,391 BTC YTD, he noted, citing a Cointelegraph report. OTC trade desks' collective balances are down to around 155,000 BTC. As the OTC desks run low, the demand on the public exchanges will increase, and that is what will uncork BTC's price. BTC/USD one-day chart with
All right, I think that's enough of the article for you guys to get the point. Basically, over-the-counter trading is where you don't go to YouTube, right? Or I'm sorry, to Coinbase. What was it, YouTube? You don't go to Coinbase and just say, I want to buy, $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. That is not how large purchases generally happen. When people are spending a lot of money, they want to get as much as they can for their money as possible. And when people are selling something for a lot of money, they generally don't want to pay a higher commission to the intermediary than they have to. So there is this concept of over-the-counter trading, and that would work. And many of the exchanges you use where you do buy retail, like Swan Private has over-the-counter trading. Coinbase has over-the-counter trading, and that would be like a big bull, a big whale, right? Bitcoin whale has something like 10,000 Bitcoin and is like, you know what? I like money and I like Bitcoin, but I want to sell 1,000 Bitcoin. You don't go, if you have brains, right? You don't go and sell 1,000 Bitcoin on a retail exchange. You don't do that. You call the trading desk and say, look, man, I've got 1,000 Bitcoin I want to sell. And they go, let us find you a buyer. And then they network a buyer, and both of you get more of what you're looking for. You give up less in fees, and the buyer doesn't have to go through a bunch of bullshit driving up the price as they buy it. Well, because Bitcoin is publicly audible, and this is another great case for why that's a good thing, we pretty much know how much Bitcoin is available on OTC desks. And it's roughly 150,000, 155,000 Bitcoin. That might sound like a lot, but when you have companies like Masterlink buying 5, 10,000 out of whack, and that's just one company. It's the biggest bear in the woods, but it's just one company, right? You got tons of wealthy people buying OTC as well. There's plenty of millionaires and billionaires out there that have added Bitcoin to their portfolio, and they don't live in the world you live in. They don't go to Coinbase and upload their driver's license and shit. They don't buy it in their name. They buy it under one of their corporations or one of their sub corporations, and they go in and they say, "Hey, look, we want to buy this much," and then matchmaking is done. 155,000 is not that much. And what happens when you have companies like Strategy just like buying the shit out of this stuff? But you have people like 21 Capital that's already announced they're going to buy like another 25,000 before or when they go public. They have like another 25,000, not dollars, Bitcoin they need to add to their balance sheet. And you have these more, every day there's a new company saying, yeah, we're going to be a Bitcoin treasury company. And not all of them really are. They might not be buying the huge amounts that some of these companies are. But especially public corporations, which are really the ones doing this and announcing it because they have to, right? These guys don't buy 10. 155,000, when that dries up, if we can't drum up more and more people are starting to figure this out, and this whole go to zero story, Bitcoin, but it's all kind of dried up and went away. As more and more of the hands get diamond, as more and more people say, no, I'm not willing to give it up, well, we start having real potential shortages. I did a little digging. The total amount of Bitcoin on exchanges right now is 2.1 million. That's it. That's all that is being held on exchange. Now, remember, there's a shitload of people, despite being told otherwise, they hodl long on exchange. They keep their Bitcoin on Coinbase. They keep their Bitcoin on Swan. They keep their Bitcoin on River. They keep their Bitcoin on Gemini, whatever. There's tons of people that don't sell that keep their Bitcoin on exchange. They like the idea they have somebody they can call for help or what have you, and they don't worry about their assets being seized or something like that. So even that is not all available at all. No way. But if you do the math, then you've got about 2.2, 2.3 million Bitcoin period available to trade at all. Because if it's in long-term storage, it ain't available to trade today because it takes time to move it over and then put it up for sale. So we're about to see a parabolic eruption in the price of Bitcoin. Bet on it. October will be up. I do not think the cycle peaks this time in this last quarter of this year like it's supposed to. Am I going to say like big corrections and shit are gone forever the way Sailor is right now? No. But I am going to tell you flat out, the old days are gone. Whatever the new cycle is will have to be revealed, and it's going to be a longer cycle than we've come to expect. And maybe the winter part of the cycle will be far less frigid and far shorter in duration. It's coming, and the numbers say that it's coming. I mean, that's the big thing. It's sticking in kind of the Bitcoin space, I guess. I mean, it's the only purpose for it is Bitcoin. Jack Dorsey's block has a spinoff called Proto Mining, and they're launching American-made Bitcoin chips to compete with Bitmain. This is another instance where the tariffs benefit an American company. That doesn't mean I'm pro-tariff. It's just a reality. If you are a Bitcoin mining company, as these things become available, most of the Bitcoin mining equipment is sold by mining companies. People think mining companies just mine Bitcoin, but most mining companies don't really mine Bitcoin. They mine Bitcoin miners. How does that work? What I mean is you go there and say, I want to start mining Bitcoin, and you could be anybody from anywhere around the world, and you enter payment information, and you buy 2 or 3 or 4 miners, and you don't even do anything. They plug them in and start mining for you. Now, there's some where you have a lot more control. You pick your own pool. You can mine things other than Bitcoin. Basically, it's hosting. You can do what you want. But even the dedicated Bitcoin mining companies that only do Bitcoin, most of the mining devices, most of the computers that are sitting there going, whir, right? Most of those are actually owned by their customers. And so when you start having a trade issue here where getting more mining equipment is going to be more expensive than it already is, because this stuff's not cheap because of the tariffs, and you have a domestic product, yeah. Why do you think Dorsey's doing it? Now, he's not doing it just because of the tariffs, because this has been coming for a couple years. But boy, it's a fortuitous time to be dropping it, especially when everything is about to probably blow up for China. I won't go much into that today, but I'm going to tell you that Trump is about to get a lot tougher on China with tariffs. The deadlines that are coming will probably not be met in a way. And he now has enough traction with other trade deals to be even tougher on China. As I said, 4 or 5 weeks ago, it's going to be like Oprah. You get a trade deal. You get a trade deal. You get a trade deal. Everybody gets a trade deal except China. China's going to be bent hard over the barrel because this is what a person like Trump does, right? A tough negotiator, which he is, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. When they know that they can push you to the edge before they really lay down and negotiate with you, they do it. And when they know you're there before they negotiate, they push a little harder. That is what's coming. And this is just one of many companies that are going to benefit from it. And before we completely leave the kind of space of Bitcoin, stablecoins, and all that, I want to talk to you a little bit about, and this isn't just nah, I was right type shit, but I mean, this is nah, I was right. So this is what I told you I don't think most people are aware of. Stablecoin issuers like Circle and Tether, I'm reading a headline here for those not on the video, are gobbling up more treasuries than most countries. Here's how that could reshape the United States economy. So before a single coin has been dropped that has been empowered to do so by the Genius Act, these two companies, Circle and Tether, are not even Genius Act compliant. These are the international players. I think Tether is located in the Bahamas or something like, I don't even know. It's somewhere offshore, right? And so these companies have been operating out in this kind of nebulous world. We're backing our currency with the dollar. And, you know, how transparent they are is kind of up to them. And we can't really say they can't do it. Now, we could put in legislation if we wanted to that prohibited their use in the United States, but we haven't. Genius does not make them compliant with the new stablecoin legislation in the United States, but they're free to keep doing what they're doing. Now, how that will impact their domestic use remains to be seen. It's what can be done and what the government will choose to do or not to do. My prediction is they won't do anything, right? They won't do anything at all until the banks are issuing them in a big way, and then they may favor the banks over these people. But the issue here I want to cover, and it's the only issue I want to hit with you today on this. Tether buys more U.S. treasuries, that's our debt, it's United States sovereign debt, than many countries. So what do you think is going to happen when JP Morgan issues a stablecoin? What do you think is going to happen when all these banks issue stablecoins? Well, the way they issue those coins is somebody has to want them. Well, there's plenty of demand for the dollar around the world. So now you are a foreign business and you want to do business in the United States dollars. If you choose to transact with a U.S. dollar stable coin issued under Genius, you have the full backing of JP Morgan Chase. I don't think people understand how much demand there is for that. If you are a business in Chile, Brazil, right, or even some of the places that are better off, like Australia or whatever, their currencies are, this is the way my grandson was just asking about printing money and how, like, well, why do people want the dollar if there's all these problems with it? And what I explained to him, we're the least stinky shirt in the hamper. Tell them, imagine you get up in the morning, you have no choice, you have to go to school or practice or whatever. And you look in your closet and in your drawer, and there's no clean clothes, and you have no time to wash any clothes, and you have no money to buy another shirt. These are the shirts you had to pick from. Wouldn't you put on the one that looks the best and stinks the least? He's like, yeah, that's what the dollar is. Now, to be able to do business in a borderless, trustless, instant settlement way in dollars and effectively have, let's say, JP Morgan Chase or some other major U.S. bank as your bank with all of the backing that goes with that is huge. But the point of this is then what? The demand for U.S. treasuries skyrockets because the banks have to buy the treasuries to issue the stable coins, but they don't necessarily have to borrow money to do it anymore because the people that want the stable coins effectively purchase them with dollars, which then become part of the circulation of dollars within the banks. But this effectively distributes the dollar throughout the world in a bigger way than it already is, and it diffuses inflation. I did not say it makes inflation go away. I said it diffuses it. So if you have a boat and it's gaining water quickly and the boat's going to sink, and you have a bilge pump, and the water's coming in at, let's say, 10 gallons a second, and the bilge pump is able to pump the water out at 9.5 gallons a second, sooner or later the boat still sinks. You got it? Okay. But if you're in that boat, do you turn the pump on? Or do you say, fuck it, it doesn't matter, the boat's going to sink anyway? Or do you flip the pump on and you just bought yourself days or weeks before the ship goes down to figure out what else to do? That's what this is. And I think the first time I said this was going to happen was right about the time the whole COVID shit started. Early 2020, I think was the first time I said they're going to bring stable coins in under FDIC and diffuse inflation out throughout the world to forestall this yet again. I actually see Trump in this. I'm going to stop and I'm going to answer this one question on the fly, and then I'm not going to say this again. No, I haven't read Roger Ver's Hijacking Bitcoin. No, I have no need to read Roger Ver's Hijacking Bitcoin because Roger Ver is a fucking liar. Roger Ver is a piece of shit grifter, and I lived through what his book is supposed to be about, and I know how inaccurate everything he says about the time is. Now we'll move on with my life. I don't care about your shit coins. I don't care about Bitcoin Cash, which I called Bitcoin trash the day it was created. I don't care about the war that fucker started, lost, and now plays victim for. I don't care about him. I don't care about anything to do with that piece of shit, and I don't want to talk about him. Moving on. All right. So that's what these stable coins are going to do. Again, it was about early 2020, the first time I said that would happen. Here it is. And when you look at how many treasuries circle and tether by, it is minuscule compared to what's about to happen. So what I was saying is Trump's very much like Nixon in this. So I talked recently about how everybody blames Richard Nixon for taking the U.S. off the last vestiges of the gold standard, which he did. But does he get the blame? Does he get the blame? Let's say that one doctor goes into a room and a patient's on his last breath, and there are some things the doctor could do to save him, but he does all the wrong shit. And then he throws his hands up and quits, says, I will not run for another term as this patient's doctor, and runs away. And then the new doctor finally gets in there after the old doctor fucked everything up, walks in, and the guy is like literally taking his last breath. There is no way to keep him alive other than leave him on life support. And every minute he leaves him on life support is wasted anyway. And that doctor calls time of death. Who's responsible for the patient's death? The one that called the time of death or the one that committed malpractice? Of course, the one that committed malpractice was Lyndon Baines Johnson. By the time Nixon touched it, there was nothing left to do. And you can hate Nixon for what he did. Not the Watergate part, the gold standard part. But do you know what it did? It bought us 50 years. And most of those 50 years were actually pretty good economically. There was a transitional misery through the stagflation of the 70s, but the booms of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, right? Especially if you accept that, like, That's not what caused the .com crash. That's not what, well, it is kind of what caused the housing crash, but I guess it caused both of them sort of. But if you take those two aberrations out, that was 30 years of unprecedented growth for any country anywhere in the world. I'm not saying he's going to pull it off, but that's what Trump's trying to do right now. It's like Bretton Woods 3, and there actually is a name for it. It's called the Mar-a-Lago Accords, if you want to look it up and know more. That's what's really going on. This is a permanent sea change in the way that America does business and the American economy and the American currency all in one go, and you're living through it. And that doesn't mean it's all going to work out, but my gut is a lot of it will work out, at least in the short term, and in the context of history, a few decades or even a couple decades is the short term. All right, next up, I want to talk about the Orange Man doing something. You know, they floated this around when he made this announcement. And one of the presidents, either of Azerbaijan or Armenia, said, if President Trump doesn't deserve a Nobel Peace Prize, then who does? And I know if you look at what's going on in Gaza and the fact that we have not reigned in Ukraine yet, that may sound ridiculous. And I'm sorry, but I have to take a break for just a minute. I've been called by dog, and I'm not dyslexic. I am home alone. I've got the dogs. And that was, I'm going to shit in the house if you don't let me out, Bark. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, when nobody's here and I'm here alone, if that dog gives me that bark, I've got about 5 minutes before it's a deuce on the floor. She's like, I told you, man, you didn't do it. Anyway, if you know anything about the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, this is not just your typical two countries that don't like each other over political reasons. This is deep-seated. It has very long-term history. The current conflict's been going on for almost, I think, 30 years. There's been full-scale war. There's been skirmishes. But I think the bigger thing is these people, lots of them hate each other. So if you look at something like a typical conflict, a lot of times the people don't have the conflict. The people of country A and people of country B don't really have a tremendous amount of animosity toward each other. And the states, the nation states, use propaganda to make the people hate each other. There is deep-seated, long-term hatred in this region for many reasons I shall not go into today. All I'm trying to do is make the case to you. This was a difficult thing to bring an end to, a very difficult thing to bring an end to. The Trump administration has been on the ground in earnest for about 7 months. They brought an end to it. I don't care how much you dislike Trump. And there's plenty of things I don't like about Trump. I don't care how much you like Trump and how much you exaggerate your bullshit. This is a problem people have. Trump, Nobel Peace Prize. What about warp speed? First of all, the people that give out the Nobel Prize like warp speed. Yeah? Okay. What about Gaza? I said that. What about 600,000 Ukrainians dead? Well, it's more like 1 million. And Trump didn't start that war, did he? Nor did Trump bomb Gaza. Just saying. If we're going to play by the rules of the Nobel Committee, we're not playing by your rules. It's not the THP3 free Nobel Prize. It's not the Jack Spirko Nobel Prize. Anyway, if there is something that you look at somebody for a Nobel Prize for peace, ending that conflict would be it. That would be it. Cutting off a conflict between Pakistan and India before it even got started, that would be it too. So what does the mainstream media want to tell us about? Well, they want to cater to people like THP3 for free here who can't look at the situation based on the rules of the system versus our rules for the system, which the system doesn't care about. Iran rejects planned transit corridor outlined in Armenia-Azerbaijan pact. I did not look for this for today's show. I simply went to Google News and I typed in Armenia, Azerbaijan, thinking I would find just a decent news story about the peace deal. Even if it said Trump's an idiot, it would still be about the peace deal. Instead, almost all the news agencies today are running with Iran rejects planned transit. Iran says it will not happen. Iran. Okay. Has nobody figured out yet that Iran has no control over anything that happens in the world? Has anybody figured out that Iran is a freaking, when it comes to military capability, a joke? Do you know who's for this corridor? Who's for this peace deal? The people who have backed it fully? Iran's only one real serious ally, Russia. Russia's like, we have no problem with this. This is a great thing. The corridor, right? And what Iran is saying is, this will not happen. This is designed to intimidate us. This is designed to cut, this part of the world off by using NATO to cut us off from the rest of the world, yada, 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 yada. So this transit corridor, this must be some sort of big thing, and it must have something to do with taking land from Iran then, right? No. There's a picture on your screen right now. It's a little bit hard to see. The artist, I think, intentionally shoved it a little bit more up against the border than it is. It does roughly follow the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia with Iran. They do share a border. They are to the north of Iran, with Turkey then over to the east from Armenia. So it's, if you're looking at a map, most people have no idea this part of the world, what it looks like. You've got Iran to the south, then you go from the east going to the west, you got Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan. And the only thing that is being added to this is this blue piece. The green piece that covers about a third of the total distance is already there. Coming out of Orbad, following along the border with Iran up into Turkey and a little bit through pieces of Armenia, this yellow line is already here. This red line is already here. All they're doing is connecting these two railroads with this relatively short, about 20% of the total distance. That's it, from Orbad to Hordiz. And what this is supposed to do is enable trade between two countries who have been fighting with each other for 30 years. And this is a huge deal. And Iran, this is the big thing. The news is acting like Iran has anything to say about this. They don't. And, we're bullying Iran again. No, we're not. First of all, the Russians are okay with this. Just ignore that, okay? Iran basically said, Russia or no Russia, we will stop this. No, you won't. No, you won't. What Iran doesn't want is peace in the Middle East, because what's happening to Iran right now, whether you can see it or not, Iran is being squeezed like a pimple from all sides. They're being isolated even from countries that don't necessarily love the United States, like Iraq, like many Middle Eastern countries. Like, some of them are indifferent, some of them hate our guts, and some of them are allies of convenience. But all of them are kind of okay with this, except for Iran, because it's pushing the pustule that is Iran a little bit harder. Now, again, you can be against what Trump did when they bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities. You can be like the lunatics on MSNBC. It didn't do anything. Then why are you worried about it? Because you know that it did. But where we're at now, we should understand this. Iran, compared to U.S. military force, is dog shit. There's nothing they can do. They're not going to militarily attack a railroad under construction in a deal that's been brokered by the United States. And you know who's responsible for building this, for overseeing the building? The United States. We're going to have money directly come into the United States from this project. Instead of paying for it, we are being paid to build it. Because that's just the kind of deals that Trump makes. Again, hate him or love him, that's the kind of deals the guy makes. And this should be held up is incredibly good news. But if it makes Trump look 1% good, we can't have that. You got to start asking yourself here why there is so much instant rejection to everything that Trump does. No, with no analysis whatsoever. Iran says it's bad, it must be bad. See, that's not where I'm going to get my opinion on ethics and morality and trade and international agreements. That's not it. If you could get two nations, let me explain what I mean when I say bad blood. Imagine the Hatfield and McCoy feud, ramp it up by 1,000, and now make them countries. That's what this is. Man, going back way before the current conflict started, a lot of bad blood from a lot of shit that went on in this part of the world. And I would say that the West, and that would include like not just us, but like the UK and other European powers, had a lot to do with the problems created there. Pre-World War I, during World War I, after World War I, during World War II, after World War II. We made this Trump's kind of the first guy to go into this space and fix some of the shit that we ourselves fucked up. At least we had some role in it. So, again, you can be mad at me for saying Trump did something good. Trump did something good. Okay? That's okay. It's okay that he did something good. Now, let's talk about the next thing. And this Trump did this too. And I'm not going to say this is good or bad. It just is. And this is, I have never heard of anything like this before in my life. So there is clearly an AI arms race going on right now. The United States and China are your two biggest players in AI. Nobody else is close. The United States is actually well ahead of China. Some of the big splashes China supposedly made and whatever, when you actually peel under the hood, they're really not. They're just not anything advanced beyond what we're doing. Not only do we have superior capabilities with AI right now over China, we have a diversity of companies, each building them in their own way, which gives us a greater competitive advantage. It's one of the advantages that a country that has competition always has over a country with a more centralized economic situation. And China actually does have a lot of capitalism in it, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. But there are certain things that the Chinese government in particular says, but not that. It's too important to the security of the state, meaning their seat in the CCP. And so the AI development in China, even though it looks like different companies, it's all directly controlled by the CCP. So there's a huge advantage that we have here. And for all their talk of all their technology, they need product from NVIDIA and AMD to build the next generation of AI units, which is what we build here. So we all know what a tariff is. A tariff would be if NVIDIA was in China and we were importing the NVIDIA chipsets from China into the United States. If there was a 15% tariff, that would mean the importer in the United States has to pay 15% to the United States government at the time of importation. Right? That's a tariff. And the same thing, if we were sending them to China and China put a tariff on them, whoever imported them into China would have to do the same thing. But here's the thing. This is the thing. They're getting into China anyway, and we're not getting anything for it. This is what the news will never tell you if they cover this story to any degree at all. China has extensive relationships with many partners in Asia Pacific, which makes sense. You would think that a country like Vietnam that pretty much gets along with the United States, though, would probably have a bit of a more cultural similarity of relationship with China than the United States, right? Okay, and they do. And they also like money. See, Vietnam doesn't hate money. So what's happening is countries like Vietnam and others are importing these and then reselling them to China. Well, AMD and NVIDIA want to be able to know their sales, forecast their revenue, and they want the guarantee versus, well, maybe this funnel will pull some of our product out the door. And they can calculate exactly how much they can sell to China. And it's about $50 million worth or $50 billion worth. So they cut a deal with the White House, AMD and NVIDIA both. We'll pay you 15% to export our product to China. What do you think about that? NVIDIA says we're going to sell these people $1 million worth in this one order, and they have to write a check to the United States government for $150,000 to do it. Basically, we're getting a piece of the profit into the hands of the government. Now, how do I feel about that? I don't like when the government has lots of money. But again, I'm back to, instead of judging this in my anarcho way instead of judging this in the way that I think should be, I have to forecast the impact of this in the way that things are and will be, whether I like it or not. More money into the United States government, again, is another can kick of our eventual complete and total destruction of our dollar. And I'm watching the world realize this and also still say it's still the least stinky shirt in the hamper. And also look at everybody else and realize this is like the biggest Mexican standoff that's ever existed. If you lived under a rock for the past 50 years, you don't know the Mexican standoff. It's when you're like in a movie and both guys have a gun pointed at each other's head, right? Or both at, the other guy's hostages or something like that. Or three guys all pointing the gun at each other. And if somebody pulls the trigger, even if you shoot me, I could still squeeze my trigger as I'm going down and we all die, right? That's the United States dollar. Who can afford for the dollar to collapse? The answer is nobody can. Nobody's ready for it. Even though we've had 55 years to figure it out, no one is prepared for this eventuality. The BRICS nations can't stand without the dollar. They like to act like they can, but they can't. They still do tremendous amounts of business in USD. So when you start bringing more money into a country like the United States, what they're trying to do, believe it or not, all this sounds bullish for the dollar. They're trying to intentionally weaken the dollar. They want the dollar to be even weaker. They want to devalue it, but they want to devalue it mostly against gold and Bitcoin. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. It will not fully work, but the devaluing part will. But what they're trying to do is be able to devalue it more, which is inflation, without it directly impacting too heavily your ability to feed, clothe, and house yourself. And it is a stalemate. Kevin says a stalemate. It is a stalemate. It absolutely is. There's no way out of this short term. So everybody's got to play the game for a little while longer. And this is another example of a deal, but there's a bigger thing here. And this is something I guarantee you're not going to hear this from any news source, including "we hate Trump" or "we love Trump." No one's going to tell you what I'm about to tell you. This is COVID all over again. This is COVID all over again. You're like, what? How? There's no virus. Don't. No. What happened economically during COVID? Which kind of company benefited during COVID, and which kind of company suffered? Now, I'm a small company, but I'm in the preparedness space, so I benefited from COVID. I'm saying, who benefited? The corporation that owns 3,800 restaurants, or the guy that put his whole life in opening 3? You know exactly what the answer to that question is. Big business benefited with a huge wealth transfer during COVID, with money that had been going to the smaller companies. When they rotted and died on the vine, the money had to go somewhere. People didn't change their spending habits. They sent it over to the big companies. Think about this. NVIDIA and AMD are like, we want to sell to China. And Trump's like, well, you can't sell to China. I mean, you just can't, because we can't do it because we got to win the AI race and you're giving them the best stuff. And they're like, but they're getting some of it anyway. And I'm sorry, I can't help you. We can't do this. So they go to Trump with a proposal. What if we give you money? I'll make a deal. I know I said I wouldn't, but I'll make a deal. And this has been done in both directions. Apple is told, you're going to import this shit from China, you're going to pay a big-ass tariff. And Apple's like, okay, we can't actually get this in the United States. And we actually don't have another trading partner we can get the stuff we're buying from China from right now. They have the infrastructure to build this, mainly because we've been buying it for so long. They built the infrastructure to do this. Hear me out. Here's an idea. We can't transition real quick. We can't. But what we can do is open up more facilities in the United States to build and assemble and do business. And what if we, I don't know, $600 billion? What if we commit to spending $600 billion on new factories, infrastructure, jobs, research facilities, etc., in the United States? What then? And Trump's like, I'll make a deal. He's the deal maker. So now all of a sudden, Apple's able to import things that a competitor would have to pay a tariff on, and Apple doesn't. Now, this is actually, from a pure economic standpoint, given the situation of the current economy, you're going to get mad when I say this, but you have to hold your horses. You can't go tweak out without understanding the full nature of what I'm saying. But this is brilliant. This is brilliant. And the reason is, if I want to make more jobs in the United States, I don't want to focus on Tim's restaurant that employs 16 people and try to get them to go and increase their head count by 10%, because that's 1.6 more people. That's one employee and one part-time employee added to the payroll. I want to go to a company that already employs 100,000 people, and if they increase their employment by even 10%, that's 10,000 people. If I want to cut an expense, I want to cut the biggest departments. If you put me in charge, I'm going to cut military spending. That's one thing I'm going to cut entitlements. I know you can't, but I would. And the reason is, it's the only place meaningful cuts can be made. It's the only place. So from a purely, like, if you don't care about the little guy at all, I'm not even going to say Trump does it, but like, if you're willing to sacrifice the little guy for the greater good, like the vaccine people do, more on that in a minute, then, this makes sense. And you can always then backstop the little guy later on by cutting all the deals. Because if you haven't noticed yet, my prognostication that every single one of these countries will bend the knee and kiss the orange ring and the orange ass, and in the end, they will cut the deal with the biggest customer in the world, has been proven over and over and over and over again. And we're running out of countries for deals to be cut with. If you think, like, countries that are big enough to matter, there's not a lot left. There's not a lot left. We're going to get deals with all these countries. So what you do is you use the tariff squeeze to negotiate the deal with the foreign adversaries. And as Trump said rightly, by the way, this is where I will defend Trump, because he's been attacked for this. But he's absolutely right. Some of the biggest shafts we've gotten in trade deals are not from our adversaries. They're from our so-called friends, like the EU. The EU has been shafting us in the ass with a barbed wire coated dildo for 50 plus years. And he's putting an end to that. And that's why everybody's angry, because everybody wants things to stay the way that they are. And in the response to this, but the experts say, my God, you people with your experts, will you shut the F up about the experts? The experts have been dog shit wrong for 30 years. I mean, they've been wrong for longer than that. But the last 30 years, the track record of the so-called economic experts, the economists from Ivy League schools, the talking heads on TV, the people that do the economic studies, all of them has been dog shit. If you judge it by Major League Baseball scores, they bat about 150. I'm a redneck duck farmer, and for the last 17 years, I defy somebody to prove I haven't batted about 850. I ain't that smart. This stuff isn't that hard. You have to have your own head so far up your own ass and so believe everything you read in a textbook or a formula or what some other expert says that you're citing to not see it, that it's pathetic. They are awful. They have failed in everything that they have said, and they are wrong. And this is where we're at today. Now, we're going to have destruction of the economy, giant inflation. That was supposed to be here already. It isn't. Government revenues are going through the roof. I'm not happy about that, but it's still true. If that's how you judge success, the orange man has more success in 7 months than most presidents have had in 7 years. If that's how you judge success. And you know what? It's how the world judges success. We judge success by a count of dollars or money or unit of some kind. And it is going to get worse and better at the same time. Just as I said, the period of flux we're in right now is the biggest flux that the world will see in a life of anybody alive. And I would say my earlier forecast, if I go back 15 years, I said it would be 2020 to 2030. As much as has happened from 2020 to 25. Think about it. In 2020, you didn't know what the FAI really was. Now you use it probably every day, unless you're a Luddite or whatever. Like, that's one of the biggest changes in the world. If you go back to 2020, people were still saying Bitcoin was going to go to zero. Now the United States has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We have banks issuing stablecoins and Fortune 100 companies stacking Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and banks issuing banks custodying Bitcoin for high net worth individuals, and we just opened up 401k plans to it, and we have a Bitcoin. Are you kidding me? Like, look at all the shit that has happened. Look at the advances in self-driving automobiles, etc. Like, huge advances. This is only the beginning, though. I'm telling you, I was off by 5 years, right? I said about 850, not 1,000. It's 2025 to 2035. You're at the actual beginning of it now. I was 5 years early. It's all coming. And there is going to be tremendous opportunity in the next 10 years. While some people lose everything they have, by the way. And eventually, how this ends, I don't know. But we are changing the entire structure of the global economy, and the United States, at least Trump's minions, as part of that. And I actually believe a large part of the banking sector as well, because they're not fighting it. They could be fighting this, but they're not. They still throw out some bullshit. You're like, oh, this is dangerous. Oh, Trump is out of hand. Whatever. But they don't actually, like, if they actually took the power they have and used it against us, they could be slowing it down. They're not. They're just kind of letting it happen while, oh, no, don't. Oh, no, don't. Oh, no. Anyway, like, that's how they're handling it. That tells you something. We are transforming things so that the United States dollar will cease to be the global reserve currency. I know that sounds insane. I know that sounds like the last thing we would want. But we just had Trump a few weeks ago say, if you want to sell things to other countries, you can't have a strong dollar. No president in the history of this country has ever said such a thing. And you know what? Be as mad as you want. Turn as red in your face over the orange as you want. He's not wrong. Why do you think China and Japan and all these other countries intentionally weaken their currency against the dollar? Why do you think almost every country in the world had a fixed rate, weakened exchange rate after World War II with the first Bretton Woods Agreement and pegged to the dollar instead of floating against it? That went on for quite a while. Why? Because if I have relative currency strength equal to the dollar in my country, but the international strength favors the dollar, I'm an exporter to the United States. That's why. That is changing right now. And you can't see it because it's like a ship going into a black hole, right? That ship's like a Star Trek thing where the ship sees the other ship on the other side of the event horizon, but it's really them, and they're just seeing themselves in a reflection further down the hole. That's what's happening to the dollar's world reserve status right now. It's not going away. It's changing. It has to. It has to. There's no way out of it. No way at all. If you have a question, the way Mick just asked this one is the way to do it. I might see it with my one blind eye. Or my one good eye, I'm sorry. Okay, new movie coming out tonight. I have to be careful what I say here. If I say the wrong things, I'm going to go to YouTube jail. But the movie is called Inside mRNA Vaccines. Peter McCullough and Robert Monroe worked together on this. I would play the trailer, but I don't know if, one, it will be a copyright violation, and two, it will probably get this video flagged, demonetized, me pee-pee slapped, who the hell knows. But this is about all the things that we now know about the mRNA vaccines, and not just the COVID variation thereof, but what mRNA vaccines actually do. What do they do? You'll have to watch this to see it. In fact, you know what? It probably is propaganda. It probably is against the mainstream. It probably will tell you what they don't want you to know. It's probably bad, evil people on the outside being anti-vaxxers. So you should totally not watch this. Do not go to the website. Do not go to inside mRNAvaccines.com. Don't do it. Don't go there. Don't learn more about it. And whatever you do absolutely do not watch this video tonight. Do not watch this movie tonight. Everything in it that you hear will be a lie. It'll be a lie. You shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Okay? Those of you that are listening to the audio, if you didn't see through what I did there, take a look at the video. All right, moving on. That's all I got for you. But you might want to watch that video. I'm just saying. You might want to watch. It does. It premieres at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it absolutely is misinformation, right? as Texas Plant Company says. It's missing information. You'll get missing information if you watch that movie. Premiering tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. You know, don't go watch it. Don't learn about it. It's bad. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about another big move coming for the Orange Man. Putin and Trump are about to have a meeting. The first since Trump took office, and, you know, face-to-face meeting, and they're meeting in Alaska. Alaska, of all places. And there is a lot of history between Russia and the United States and Alaska. There's a lot of people in Alaska whose roots are Russian, that their families go all the way back to when we bought Alaska. Seward's Folly is what it was called at the time. We bought Alaska from Russia. Maybe you didn't. If you're young, maybe you didn't learn that in school, but we did. We purchased Alaska from Russia who had the territory before us. There's towns in Alaska that still are very Russian sounding. There's Russian families. There's people in Alaska that still speak Russian, though there's not that many people in Alaska to begin with. But there's a lot of history there, and that's a big part of it. But there's more. There's more. And the article in RT does a good job of explaining all this. Number one, Trump does not wish to share the stage with anybody in this negotiation. He doesn't want to be in Turkey with Erdogan. You know, he doesn't want any other world leaders there. It seems like he doesn't even want Zelensky there. This is for, I think, in the Orange Man's head, the grown-ups to sit down and talk about ending this, because this needs to be ended. I need to take a break again. Time out. I'll be right back. Now I got to go do the reverse of what I did the first time and let the damn animal back in. There's 104 out there. All right, hopefully that's the end of that. It is. It's like 104 degrees right now, and that dog is getting older. I just don't want her out there like that. So anyway, I feel like Trump is really big on signaling intention ahead of things. And he uses his surrogates for this. And I guess the chief surrogate would be the vice president of the United States. This is the 11th, and this was done on the 10th. This was dropped on Sunday yesterday. J.D. Vance, I'm quoting here, "We're done with the funding of the Ukraine war business." So Trump is heading to Alaska to meet with Vladimir Putin on the 14th to discuss, above all other things, the Russo-Ukraine conflict. Trump has said publicly over the last weekend, he said that there would be some exchanging of territories and it would be better for both sides in the end than it is now. Zelensky immediately came out and said, "We're not giving anything back and we're not giving anything up." And Trump basically said, "So I'm going to meet with Uncle Vlad up in Alaska without you. Okay, and we're without us, you got nothing." That's what's being signaled here. Vance is like, "We're not paying for this anymore." And you might be like, "But we are." But we're not. The United States has not given $1 to Ukraine since weapons started flowing to Ukraine again. Not $1. Now, I'm not in favor of this being done, but it's the least stinky shirt in the hamper, right? It's better than it was. I don't want this war to go on. I want this to end. If it was me, it would have ended very, very quickly because I would have squeezed Zelensky into making a deal. Flat out and ended this war so people on both sides stop dying. But he didn't. That's not what he did. He didn't do it. But what they have done is every U.S. munition that goes to Ukraine now goes to NATO first, and NATO gives it to them. Or they sell it to them. It's up to NATO what to do. We're selling the weapons to NATO, who is transferring the weapons to Ukraine. Again, am I okay with this? I'm not okay with it. I do think it's better, though. They're not spending my grandson's future income to pay for Ukrainian oligarchs to have or Ukrainian bureaucrats retirement, which is what we've been paying for up till now. And we're not sending our weapons to Ukraine that are somehow ending up in North Africa. So we give them $1 billion worth of weapons, and like $250 million worth of those weapons end up in North Africa, and somehow the oligarchs in Ukraine are doing better than they ever were. I wonder what's going on there. So putting an end to that is a good thing. But I think Trump's big on timing his wins. He's very, very publicity conscious. It's probably the thing he has the most experience in, is managing his image to the press. Because that doesn't go back to 2016 when he became president. That goes back to the early 1980s. I think everybody's forgotten how popular Trump was with how many people, especially Democrats. Democrats loved Trump. Oprah loved Trump not so long ago. So he's really good at managing the way he does things from a publicity standpoint, even if the media hates him. I mean, can you imagine? This is a thing, and it's nothing to do with his quality as a president. Okay. Can you think of another person who could have run for president without having had any office first, with the press 100% opposed to him, won an election, ran into the juggernaut that was COVID, had the things go down like J6 and all that, have the media come at him? He's a Russian asset. He's an insurrectionist. Ridiculous charges. I'm sorry, the 38 felony charges they whipped up in New York were bogus as fuck from the beginning. They still are. And if you don't believe that, you just don't want to admit the truth. Anybody with an IQ over 80 could instantly see what was done there. But hear me out. Go through all that. Have literally almost every major media agency in the world against him. Global anti-propaganda against him. And win the presidency a second time non-consecutively? Could anybody else do that? So hate him all you want. If you hate him, that's fine. I'm not talking about what he did as far as policy. I'm talking about the public relations management necessary. The marketing brilliance. As dumb as he looks, somehow it works. Right? What I'm saying is a guy that knows how to manage his public image and knows how to stack things and make the wins like there's win after win after win. In other words, I could announce these two things this week. But if I defer this one to next week, it's win, 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 stacking wins instead of win, win, win all at once and everybody forgets about it. Because when you have a win and you have another win in the same week, only one's going to get coverage. It's called mind share. When you get into the media, vendor programs, all across the board, you call it mind share. I have people all the time. Can I join the MSP as a vendor? What do you do? I got 3 people that do that already. Well, you could have me too. No, now I'm hurting mind share. Like I limit how many people do coffee, how many people do cannabis, etc. How many people do mushrooms in the MSB? Because if there's 100 people in the same niche in there, even with 8 to 10,000 members active at any given time, it still dwindles the impact for somebody. I want it to work for you. I want it to work for me, but I also want to work for them, because if I can't keep them, I can't make it work for the other two parties, right? That's how a lot of this is going on here. He wants to make sure that every week he's dropping some big announcement. I think you're about to get a big ass announcement about the Ukraine-Russia war. I don't think it will be, we have an agreement, it's over and done, because he's going to have to then turn the screws on Zelensky. But there's something else the media hasn't told you. There's been some polling done in Ukraine, and it is something like 88% of Ukrainians want peace now, period. They don't care anymore. Well, what about those territories? I don't care. I want peace. I want my country back. That's overwhelming. And if Zelensky had to defend his seat in an election today, that's about how many people would vote against him, is around 80 to 90% of Ukrainians would vote against Vladimir Zelensky. The reason Zelensky wants to prolong the war is not because he's a patriot, not because he believes the bullshit that he's saying. This is the only way this man can maintain power. The second that war is over, he's done. And my prediction is he's either going to be living on some island in the South Pacific or somewhere like Florida with a U.S. passport that he already has, that we've known about for 5 years. Okay? But I think you're going to get a major move toward, this is what you're going to come away with, I think. I've spoken with Vladimir Putin. We've agreed upon terms that are reasonable for all parties involved. It's now up to Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian people if they want to take the deal. And if it was the president of Mexico saying that, or the president of Turkey, or Xi Jinping even from China, okay, whatever. When the president of the United States says that, love him or hate him, it wouldn't matter if it was Biden or Obama, by the way, or Harris. If the president of the United States will step up and say that, the pressure that then goes to the Ukrainians is massive. And so I think what you're going to see from here is we're going to call it a win, even though it's not over, and defer the final announcement to later. And then the pressure campaign on Zelensky begins. And while that's going on, Trump's next win that he'll be putting up is what everybody's screaming that he doesn't have the constitutional authority to do right now, which he absolutely does, which is federalizing DC. And this, this could be a class, instead of seeing it as pro-Trump, it could be a class for the Democrats today about how do you actually get power back, because you're losing every bit of power you ever had. You're losing every issue. The Democrats have taken the wrong side of every 80-20 issue in America, men and women's sports, transing children, all of it. Illegal aliens, open borders, defending child molesters. I mean, they'll fly to Nicaragua or fly to El Salvador in the name of bringing a freaking sex trafficker back to the United States and call him a Maryland man. They will not lift a finger to help a single American anywhere, unless you're an illegal alien, and then they call you an American and say they're going to help you. They've gotten everything wrong. DC is a effing shithole. Okay? It was a shithole when I took my family there back in like 2001. It was a shithole. It is 100 times worse as a shithole today. There are homeless people everywhere. There is crime everywhere. If you go to our nation's capital to see some of the beautiful things that are there, because for all the bad I can say about DC, it is an incredible place. If you've never been, then once maybe it gets cleaned up a little bit, you should go. The Smithsonian is unbelievable. One of the most memorable moments of my life. I was in 8th grade and we went there. And we walked in this huge African stuffed mounted elephant, but it's a real elephant mounted, full size African elephant, bull, like massive. Standing next to that thing was awe-inspiring. The history that's in there, the nature, the natural science stuff, all of it, stuff from the Apollo program, etc. The war memorials. If you've never been to the Vietnam War Memorial and you really want to understand in a way that is so subdued and so soft in how it makes the point, how horrible war is, go to the Vietnam Memorial, put your hand on the black granite, feel how cool it is, run your hand and realize you're running over the names of men, most who died, who never even wanted to be in that war. Most of them were draftees. And I don't know if you'll see what I've been there a lot, but I haven't been in 15 years, maybe more. What I've always seen there is older men that you can tell were Vietnam veterans standing there having an internal conversation with somebody they knew who didn't come home. I don't know how much of that's going on because we're losing more and more of those guys. There's almost no World War II vets left now. Very few Korean War vets. And now we're really aging out our Vietnam veterans. We're seeing, a man my age with a piece of paper and a pencil doing an etching of a name that's probably this guy's dad or granddad that he never knew. That's what you see there. The Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Korean Memorial. DC is an amazing place to visit. It really is. And all of the places I just mentioned, you should see. And right now, if you go there, you're risking getting stabbed or shot or beaten up. So don't be surprised when the orange man moves on this. And he's really good at saying what he's going to do before he does it to set it up. He's a good promotionalist. And he basically made an announcement again this weekend. He said, if you're homeless and you live in DC, you should leave now, immediately. If you don't, you're going to be moved. Then he said, and the homeless that we do move, they'll be housed far away from the capital. What does that mean? I don't know. But this is what I see happening. Some sort of quick facility being built that you'll probably be better off there than living on the streets of DC. That if you don't cause any problems, you go there. If you want to leave, but don't go back. That's how I see this working. Like, we now have you in the system. We know who you are. You can be homeless, but not here. Now, you might think I'm touting this. I have mixed emotions about this because I'm not for taking anybody's liberty in any way, but I also think that, like, you don't own the place that you're sleeping, right? You don't have a right to shit in the street. You don't have a right to be strung out on fentanyl while little kids are trying to go learn about dinosaurs. I'm sorry, you don't. So, yeah, that might be what they call it, the big, beautiful homeless shelter. But I'm already going to tell you what somebody please tell me what the Democrats are going to call this place. Please tell me what they're going to call the homeless shelter, or more likely multiple shelters provided to these people when they're moved off the streets of DC. What is the left media and all the libtards on TikTok and shit going to call it? What are they going to call it? Come on. I know there's a delay. I don't want to say it for you. What are they going to call it? Trump Town, no, Auschwitz. You're close, KT, with Auschwitz. What's the generic term? What's the generic term that they're going to call this? What are they already calling Alligator Alcatraz? It's a what? Come on. Somebody say it. Don't make me tell you. Shantville. There it is. Thank you, Mike. Concentration camp. They're going to call them concentration camps. Internment camp. Yep. Yeah. Matthew Sursley's here. Internment camp. That's another term. They'll use those two interchangeably. Concentration camps and internment camp. And they'll say they're disproportionately rounding up black and brown people. The other thing that's going to happen when this begins, there's a shitload of crime going on in DC. And a lot of these people have criminal records and they're out on bond that they've exceeded. A lot of these people have criminal records, and by now they should be in jail for their crimes. Those people, as they sort through them, are going to be like, oh, look at this. You have 17 warrants for your arrest. Guess where you're going? You're going to jail, baby. And that will be another example. They'll say that is, disproportionately targeting brown and black people. It's ethnic cleansing or whatever bullshit they come up with, when it's actually just taking people who have warrants out for their arrest and actually doing the job the DC police will not do, which is arrest them. Additionally, what else are they going to find? You know what they're going to find. They're going to find a whole bunch of people who are in this country illegally. And whether they're criminal aliens or just illegal aliens, they're going straight to Alligator Alcatraz, and straight back to their country of origin. That's what's going to happen. Because, hey, we were checking this thing out, and we've got these people, and they're off to the internment camp that is really a homeless camp or whatever. And it turns out this person's from Guatemala, and they're in the country illegally, which is a big part of how people that are not criminal aliens are getting wrapped up right now. They get a guy's name. They're not just randomly walking around going, hey, you're brown. Show me you belong in the... That's not what's happening, no matter what the TV tells you. They're specifically targeting people, individuals, and groups that they have knowledge of. So they go to this place and are looking for Juan Valdez, right? He came in from Colombia illegally, smuggling coffee beans in his ass, right? So they're looking for Juan, and he's committed multiple crimes. And when they find Juan, he's living in this apartment, and there's 4 other people in there with him, and they all happen to also be illegal aliens. You're going with Juan. Now, this is actually reverse sanctuary city mindset. And it's actually brilliant if you think about it. It's actually brilliant. Again, I know you might not like it. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to like it for it to be smart. I don't have to like it for it to be smart. There's plenty of things criminals do that are smart that I don't like, right? Learning how to pick locks is smart. If you use it to break in my house, I don't like it. But the reason it's smart is the reason that like a city like Los Angeles says they have these sanctuary policies is what? Because when we're trying to figure out who did something bad, if people know that if they're illegal, they're going to get deported, they won't work with us. So by telling them we don't do you're a sanctuary city, you're safe, don't worry about it. Then when somebody's kid's missing, they might tell us if they know something about the person that took them, or if they know the person might get in some trouble. But once they're done with their trouble, they'll still be here. They might actually even rat out their cousin or their brother or something. That's what they're doing. But if you know that if the guy you're living with is wanted for like child trafficking and drugs, and that if they come get him, you're going too, aren't you likely to be like, get your shit and get the fuck out? In other words, they're putting these people into a position where their own groups that have routinely covered for them don't want them around. That's what's going on. But yeah, the bigger thing with this stuff about DC, though, is the place is an utter shithole. The Democrats will pick the wrong side of this issue again. I'm sure they'll have plenty of fat girls and ugly girls yelling on TikTok about the orange man's a dictator and he's Stalin or Mao or whatever, okay? That's fine. But in the end, the average person, as this happens, is going to go, hey, look, there's nobody shitting on the street in D.C. anymore. And it's going to be the same effect as the border. Same effect as the border. All we needed was a different person in charge. And the pressure point is going to come this way. San Francisco, LA, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York, all of you could do this too. It's your local politicians. It's the Democrat Party that has you living like this. Look what happens when you fix it. That will be the message. Now, does that mean I'm all for it? I have parts of it I'm for and parts of it I'm against. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. My last one for you today, and I thought this was a bit interesting since it's in my backyard. Fort Worth, Texas had implemented DEI. I know that might be hard to believe that Fort Worth would implement DEI, but I'm going to tell you why Fort Worth implemented DEI before I tell you what just happened. If you were a major city, million-plus population, Fort Worth's about 1.2 million, and part of a larger metroplex of around 8.5 million people. If you're somebody like that, under the last administration, and you didn't even at least have the facade of a DEI program, you got a shitload of your funding cut off. In other words, people and entities follow incentives. And if the incentive's perverse, you get perverse results from perverse incentives. Okay? So there was an incentive. You do the thing that we told you to do. You put your DEI Karens in charge of HR, and you have your DEI program, and you have a DEI officer, and you say DEI things, and you get your money. And if you don't do it, you don't get your money. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and he's orange. Okay? I know a lot of this sounds pro. It just is. And the orange sheriff came in and said, actually, we're changing the incentive. No more DEI. If you want your money from the federal government, you need to not do DEI. The funny thing was, there is an incredibly liberal policy for the Fort Worth City Council for public comment on major things. It's incredibly liberal. It's pretty much like it's almost an open invitation for a citizen's filibuster. You are limited on how much time you individually get to speak, but as many people as you can bring before the vote, the council has to listen to the public. So when I say liberal, I don't mean Democrat liberal. I mean liberal is in the actual definition of the word, apart from politics. Very forgiving, very open, allowing for a lot. Yeah. So they have this huge thing. It was over 5 hours of people explaining to the city council why they couldn't do this, why they shouldn't do this, why they needed to stand their ground. And some of the groups were people like Indivisible. When did we hear about Indivisible? Oh, that's right. When I told you the people who were funding No Kings and they weren't local, it was a bunch of bullshit. It was George Soros money. And yeah, they were there. Here's my thing. You couldn't find enough people to have comments go on for 5 hours that are legitimately from Fort Worth. Fort Worth politically is an incredibly conservative city. As big cities go, it might be the most conservative city in the United States. Again, population over 1 million. Cities with a population over 1 million, I don't know that there's a city that's more politically conservative than Fort Worth. And by the way, within Fort Worth, that crosses your demographics as well. That goes into, like, I'm not going to say that the majority of blacks that live in the city of Fort Worth's limits are Republicans. I'm going to say the number that are is far greater than the national average. The same with Hispanics, etc. It is very much a GOP stronghold, Republican mayors, that type of thing. So after 5 hours of astroturfed bullshit, the DEI programs were suspended, and the vote of the council wasn't even close. It was 7-4. There's 11 members of the council in Fort Worth, 7-4. 2 are die-hard Democrats, right, that are just going to – anything that is Republican, even smelling, they're going to vote against. The other 2 of them, I think, kind of were like, it's safe for me to vote against it and look good because I stood up for DEI, and I know we're going to lose anyway. So it's actually really easy to vote against something that you really don't want to vote against, but it's better for you if you do, if you know it's going to fail anyway. So that's what happened here, 7-4 vote. But this is, make no mistake, this is going on all over the country. And back to, you can hate Trump all you want. But when it comes to killing DEI, the man has put a stake in the vampire's heart. The trans shit, too. I mean, this is something that I recently said on social media. I said, I know that some of you think you're being cute and you're being clever when Trump does something really shitty, and you're like, and they write it with the hysterical, shrieking. I do it too on social media all the time, where like some of the letters are capital and some are lowercase, and it's all mixed through the word, right? But at least it's not Kamala. And I'm like, you're actually making a really good case for him. Can you see, like, forget about the bad, right? Actually, don't forget about the bad. Do you not think that almost every bit of the bad would be worse if Cackles was president, including like money going to Israel? Do you think in any way Cackles would cut that off? Do you think that Cackles would be pushing on both sides of the Russian-Ukraine war to end it, or talking shit about Vladimir and actually not doing anything at all? Right? I mean, come on. Do you think that we would have a Bitcoin strategic reserve? Do you think Ross Ulbricht would have went free? Do you think DEI would have had a stake put through its heart? Do you think all of the right side of the issue with the trans bullshit would be going the way it is under Cackles? Like, for all the bad, there is good. In fact, there's so much good that you look at the bad and you go, bro, why is your orange ass doing this? At least you shut up. Like, I got 2 of my wishes. 2 of my wishes through Trump. I had 2 big wishes, and one was, will you please shut up about Canada being the 51st state? That seems to blown away like a fart in the wind, okay? And then the Greenland shit. I think the Greenland shit, the saber was rattled, and now the negotiations are going on for contracts between Greenland and the United States. I still think eventually, before Trump leaves office, you see Greenland become an independent, completely independent entity from Denmark. And I guess the right word would be a protectorate of the United States. Canada, that's not going anywhere. We don't want Canada. We absolutely do not, 100% do not want Canada to be part of the United States. Canada's lost its mind. The people, you know what you can't do in Canada right now? I ain't shitting you either. Take a walk in the woods. You can't walk in the woods. Like the national forests and shit like that. And their reasoning is we have too many forest fires. So like one guy posted a little short video of himself like, you're not locking me down. I'm not doing this. It's a climate lockdown, like COVID lockdown. And I'm going to go walk in the woods. So he videos, they find him like $18,200 for walking for 5 minutes in the forest. No, we don't want Canada as part of it. Canada's lost its mind. I know some of you guys that tune into me are Canadian, and you're not. You haven't lost your mind. But John's got it right here. John Duke says, too many liberals in Canada. You're outnumbered 4-1. You're outnumbered 4-1. Carney is your freaking PM. You finally get rid of Trudeau, and you elect Carney? Are you kidding me? And the policies you people have is just ridiculous. We don't need you here. We have enough of our own problems. We don't need to add to them. So at least he shut up about that, and he shut up about Greenland. What's wrong with them? Who's them? I don't know who them are, Tom. If you're talking to somebody else in the chat, let me know. But no, they've lost their minds. They've lost their minds. And do you understand what would happen if Canadians were voting in U.S. elections? You never have a Republican president again for 100 years. What's wrong with Canadian liberals? I don't know. If you have to ask me that, I don't have an answer for you, man. You got work to do on yourself, bro. What's wrong with Canadian? What's wrong with liberals? And then just multiply that by 5, and there's your Canadian liberals. They're nuts. They're ass. Jamonia says Canada being called the 51st state is one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. Everybody knew it was a joke. It was funny. It's not funny when the president of the United States says it, man. That was very irresponsible. I'm sorry. Don't think I'm all in on Orange Man just because I point out the good things that he does. That was a really dumb thing to do. It didn't really help. All right. And Jensen here says, we have friends in Canada. It is far worse than we're being told. I believe that too. I am ready to wrap up today. I want to talk to you real quick as we wrap up today about T-Spaz and the item of the day. I don't really have a new item of the day for you guys today. I'm sort of bringing back one I brought you guys last week. Last week I brought you the Olaton's folding scalpel, the T010, T010 folding scalpel. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to full screen for me on this. And this uses a number 25 surgical blade, goes on your keychain, and it is a great little device. When I ran this, though, I said that Olaton's makes a lot of different versions of these folding scalpels, most of them titanium bodied. And that there was one that was a lot better I was thinking about buying, but it was like $60. And I thought they kind of overdid it, like basically making it a karambit with a pull loop and all that, kind of ruined its compact nature. But what about that, guys? See the bigger one there? That's still really compact. Look at how little that is. This uses a number 60 surgical blade, and it is much more kind of a knife profile. It's a much longer cutting edge, and that cutting edge is much longer than a number 25, and you really have to look at where the belly on that number 25 ends. So if you see I don't want to not look at it. The edge of that knife comes all the way down to the base of the blade. If you look at where the belly on the number 25 is, the cutting edge actually ends way up there. So your cutting edge is only from here up, about half the length of the part of the scalpel that extends outside of it. It is great. I love this. I'm not saying get one, not the other. I'm saying you might want to consider both, or one might be better for you. What I like about this guy here, and this is the T058 is what this guy is. The T058 also has a pocket clip. So for a right-handed person anyway, it carries inside the right pocket like a typical folding EDC knife. When you pull it out, the opener is right there where you want it to be. It would not be great if you're a left-handed person. Other than, when you pulled it out, you'd have to flip it around in your hand to open it. But again, this is not really like a defensive knife anyway, though it certainly could work for that in a variety of ways. But, scalpel blades, one thing about them is they are kind of flimsy. They're not a heavy working blade. They're a sharp cutting implement. But I really like this. And the way I found this, one of you guys ordered it. So when you guys buy stuff through T-Spaz, I don't see who you are. I don't know what state. I don't know anything about you. But I see the total number of things that I sell. And when I was going through my orders from last week, I saw 2 different people ordered this guy, or a version of him, actually. There's one with a G10 handle, and that's what you guys ordered. They're $20. This guy's all titanium, and it's $30. I went with this. So now I have 2 new great little EDC blades. I think they both have their merits. I think they're both awesome tools, and I wanted you to know about them. And what I did, since I didn't have time to review this guy, this bigger one, and I will review it very soon, maybe tomorrow, and make a video about it as a standalone tool, I just added a link to it to my prior review of the smaller one. This thing is awesome. And American Legends asking if there's a Swiss Army-like knife available. I think you're missing the point of these things. I really do. I don't think you're getting it. This is not something that's going to have a saw in it and a bunch of other shit. This is to be extremely compact, extremely lightweight. You would say this thing, weighs probably, I could look up the spec, and I said less than 2 ounces. Less than 2 ounces, literally hides in a pocket. You don't get sharper than a scalpel. By the way, I found one thing about scalpel blades. It's pretty low-end steel, so they don't last long. That's fine because they're replaceable. But because they are a lesser quality steel from a hardness perspective, if you take a sharpening steel and you know how to use it, and you go about 2 passes on each side, right when you first put it on the knife, it goes from sharp as a scalpel to freaking ridiculously scary sharp with just choo. That's all it takes. And as you use it, you can probably sharpen it 2 or 3 times on a steel before it doesn't want to take a nice edge again, and then you throw it away. Another little tip on all of these disposable blade knives, like the Outdoor Edge is another knife that I've recommended in the past. Any of these knives with disposable blades, razor knives, anything. This is the best tip that anybody's ever given me on this issue from the audience. Save a pill bottle, like a Tylenol bottle or a Motrin bottle or a vitamin bottle. And whenever you're going to throw away a blade, put it in the bottle. Keep it like under the sink or something. When the bottle's full of blades, throw the bottle away. That way you don't end up with a dog going through your trash, a garbage man getting cut, your wife or you getting cut where you're taking the garbage out because the blade pokes through the bag and gets you in the calf. Like that kind of shit can happen. What I used to do is tape the blades up with duct tape to make them safe. That bottle tip, I don't remember who it was that gave me that. If you're still listening, thank you, man. It's something I use all the flipping time. Real quick, I did have a few question type things. Let's see what we got. American Legend says, how much do you think is required to reach millionaire status in the future today? I think he means Bitcoin. I would tell you I would expect Bitcoin to be higher than $1 million a coin at the latest by 2035. So it's how fast? How fast? I think your cycle top this time is somewhere near 200,000. Do it with you with that. I don't do a lot of pricing predictions. I am going to tell you that this whole idea that we're going to retract back to 30,000 or 25,000 like we always have in the past, those days are over. We will retract at some point. It may not be until well into next year, but there will be volatility. There will be ups and downs. That is going to continue. But the Sailor wasn't wrong when he says it's going up forever, Laura, forever. John Lee says, comment, not just Trump, but the U.S. supplies, let me see, I can't read this, supplies subsidized weapons to Israel to bomb Gaza in light shed via modern technology of what that means. Continue business as usual on the matter is in and of itself reason not to award someone Nobel Peace Prize. For you and for me, I agree. But I am not judging the Jack Spirko and John Lee Nobel Prize for Peace. I am judging the Nobel Committee on who it has given the Nobel Prize to in the past. They gave Barack Obama the Nobel Peace Prize while U.S. bombs were falling on fucking children at the same time the prize was being given. So you can't go there with this if you're judging the system based on the system's rules. I'm sorry. I don't care how much it upsets you. I don't care how much I agree with your sentiment. If you look at the people who've won the Nobel Peace Prize over the last 20 years, there is no good case as to why Orange Man don't get one too. Which means, just in case you're not understanding me, the whole thing's a fucking sick joke, okay? I'm not saying that means he's great. I'm saying the criteria they set based on who they gave the damn thing to, he meets it in every way. And more so in many ways, because the man has brought peace to more places than just about any other American president has in any time. You can be as mad as you want or as triggered as you want, but tell me who brought more peace as a United States president in our lifetime. For me, I go back to Nixon. Don't really remember him, but I was alive when Nixon was president. So when I say in my lifetime, I'm going 1972 to 2025. Tell me a president that's been better for diffusing and ending global conflicts in that 53-year period? Go ahead. Tell me who it is. You don't have anybody. In other words, do I think Barack Obama should got a Nobel Prize? No. I think getting elected while being black does not give you a Nobel Peace Prize, but apparently it does. So if that's the threshold, now you tell me how he doesn't qualify. Especially when U.S. bombers are dropping bombs on civilians while the man is literally receiving his Nobel Prize. Sorry, it's just true. The problem people have when you say that is they actually think the Nobel Peace Prize is really a peace prize. That's they actually still give credit to an organization who has abandoned what it was set up to do because of, we all know why, don't we? Don't you know the work of Jerry Pournelle, the iron law bureaucracy? That's what always happens. That's what always happens. Anytime an organization gets large enough, the iron law kicks in, the bureaucrats take it over, and it becomes a political mess. It doesn't actually see to its mission anymore. It becomes about power for the entity and the organization. And just because they put Peace Prize in the Nobel Committee doesn't change that. It's the same shit. 229 Mick, have you read The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb? And if so, do you have any thoughts on its accuracy, validity of what suggests of this collateralization of securities? I have not read it, so I can't comment on it. I don't know. I've heard of it, but off the top of my head, I don't even know what it is, like what the actual theory is. So maybe I'll comment on it in the future. I'll dig into it. Ernie says, Jack, what do you think about a Texas bill, gold and silver, as legal tender for everyday transactions, gold and silver backed digital debit card? I don't think it matters. I think it sounds nice. I think it's fluff, but I don't think anybody's going to do it. There's nothing right now that really prevents anybody from using gold as money if they want to. Now, there is a way that it's prevented from being used as an exchange mechanism for like a store or something, but there's nobody really clamoring to do it. There's nobody clamoring to do it. There is this incessant need, I think we have, like to wax nostalgically to a time when gold was money. And while the economic system was more fair at the time, the technology exceeded what gold could do. There's a reason we left the gold standard beyond the government and the bankers being greedy. And it's because gold can't move at the speed of light like fiat can. That's why. And once we got fiat, then we got all the horrible things that went with it. And there's no going back to this. There's not a huge demand for this. There isn't. Steve says, when Bitcoin hits 100,000, I think he means 1 million. He missed a comma there. What will it be worth in today's dollars? I don't know. It depends on when it hits it and how much erosion continues to the United States. Either way, you'll wish you had more than you do. That's all I could say there, right? That's all. And it looks like that's the end of our questions. I would like a gold and silver backed crypto, but I'm weird. See, but you say that, but you don't really want one, Tom. You know why you don't want a gold and silver backed crypto? Because you have one. You can have one right now. Bitcoin Gold is a thing. It failed. No one gives a shit. No one uses it. No one wants it. Bitcoin Gold exists. There is a crypto backed by gold. Again, it's called Bitcoin Gold. I bet you think that the reason people don't use gold is because they don't have it. They do. Ernie says the Texas gold and silver legal tender for everyday transaction already passed. Yeah, but it does. But see, that's what I'm saying. It already passed. I said it doesn't matter. I know it passed. No one's doing it. No one's doing it. Jamonia says you absolutely can use gold and silver for legal tender for all throughout the United States with other people. No, you can't. No, you can't. Not all. Not every. Not all. Many businesses operate under licensure and other things where they cannot accept gold. Go to a pawn shop and try to buy something with gold. Say, I want to buy this set of tools. and they say $500, and you're like, okay, and you go, I have $500 worth of gold. See what happens. You will give them the gold. They will give you the dollars. Then with the dollars, you can buy the product. You can't spend the gold directly, right? And I'm sorry, nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. Ernie says it will take effect in 2026, and no one will do it. I'm telling you right now, no one's going to do it. Why would you use gold as a currency if you could use Bitcoin as a currency? There's plenty of credit cards already that basically are spending Bitcoin. And almost nobody does that. If you really believe that gold holds its value, that gold is better money, then the last thing you would do right now is spend it when you could spend a currency that erodes in value, right? You see, this is the thing. Like Gresham's law is not Gresham's theory. Gresham's law is Gresham's law. Gresham's law. And Gresham's law is a law. When you have two forms of currency in place, as long as merchants will take the weaker one, that is what people will spend. People don't understand there's two sides to it. Part of it is also like when they realize, like when the people selling realize how poor quality the currency is and demand the stronger currency will take over from the weaker one. But while you have both currencies in position, and while you have a legal tender law that requires the merchant to take US dollars, and I have a currency that depreciates in value, and I have one that appreciates in value, and I have to pay additional taxes if I spend the one that appreciates in value, I ain't never selling. I ain't never selling. Give me call me Bert says, give me $21 gold coins and I will have your change right up. Exactly. I get your point. I'm not sure everybody will. Anyway, I'm ready to shut down. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I hope you understand that there's a lot of things I said today that sounded very pro Donald Trump. They're very much forward looking at the impact in the relative short term, which I would say is the next 5 years. In the next 5 years. And I like many of you, I want these wars to end. I don't care. I don't care, honestly, how the Ukraine and Russia war ends. I just want it over. I want it done. I want it finished. So, do you want Ukraine to win? I don't give a fuck. Ukraine doesn't mean anything to me. Neither does Russia, by the way. I don't care. It's not my problem. I'm fucking Star Trek, okay? Prime directive. Don't interfere. But we did interfere. And when you interfere enough, you bear some responsibility and some culpability. And so if Orange Man can bring old Vladdy up to Alaska and they can have some nostalgia together, talk about the Aleutian Islands or whatever, makes them happy, and they can hammer out a deal that makes sense, and they shove it up Zelensky's ass, I don't care. The day that it's signed, no more people die in that war. That's what I want. I'm not big on picking the lesser villain in a war of two villains. And neither one of those countries are really like a bastion of freedom. But if you want the honest truth, if I could live in Ukraine, like I had no choice. I'm getting extradited from the United States, right? They're going to throw, what is it? Not extradited. That's when you're a criminal. When they throw you out, what's it called? Banished, but it's not banished. There was a word for it. They used to, when they would throw people out, right? Like emperors would, like, instead of killing a guy, they got rid of him. Whatever that's called, it's out of my head right now. If that was happening to me, and they said you can live exiled, there it is. If I was going to be exiled, and I could live in rural Russia, you know, to the east of Moscow, right, or rural Ukraine to the west of Kyiv. So either way, I'm totally away from the conflict if the conflict's still going on. And you said pick Russia or Ukraine. Russia. I'd rather live in Russia than Ukraine. And my family's Ukrainian. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Yeah, I don't want to be exiled, but if I'm going to be exiled in one of those two places, I already know which one I'll live in. Take care, guys. Have a great day. I'll catch you tomorrow with another episode.